Hi everyone, it's Alexis with Project Management Made Simple. In this video, I'm going to answer the question, what is scope management? So scope management, as defined by the project management body of knowledge, is the processes that are required to ensure that the project includes all the work required and only the work required to complete the project successfully. So we notice within this definition that there's an emphasis on focusing on the work that's required and only the work that's required. This really speaks to the potential for scope creep. And scope creep is where scope essentially finds its way into our project. It's not been managed, it's not been assessed, and all of a sudden our project is out of control, our schedules are not aligning, our budget's not aligning, expectations are not aligning for our customer. And so scope creep can really be a negative factor on a project. And so in scope management, we want to keep in mind that we're focusing on only the work that is required. Scope management is one of the 10 knowledge areas as defined by the PMBOK guide, and it has various activities that span across the planning process group as well as the monitoring and controlling process group. So when we think of the planning process group, we want to think of all the activities that it requires to plan for scope. So things like, what are the tools and techniques that we're going to use to determine the scope that is required? How are we going to collect requirements? How are we then going to define that scope further and break that down into a WBS that highlights the specific deliverables that are tied to those requirements? Next, we move into the monitoring and controlling process group, where we take a look at how do we validate and how do we control our scope. This is a process group that goes throughout the life cycle of the project. And so we are constantly validating our scope, which means we're constantly validating that the requirements, the deliverables are all matching up and are aligning to expectations of our client or our customer. And we're also controlling scope. So if we're having those day-to-day conversations with our customer and they're wanting additional requirements, we're managing those expectations by ensuring that we have in place something like a change control process, a change management process. Again, I have a video dedicated to this information, so are covering this topic, so I'll have that linked below as well. But in its essence, when we think of monitoring and controlling, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to monitor our current state of what our scope is looking like, monitor that against our plan. We want to highlight any deviations from the plan, get a good understanding of why there might be deviations. Is there a pattern here? Is there some rework that's necessary so that we can reestablish what the scope is going to be and what the scope is going to be necessary to be to actually fulfill requirements that our customer has? And then we want to go back and make sure that we are controlling our scope. And so ensuring that we're doing what we need to do to prevent things like scope creep. This was a video answering the question, what is scope management? If you found it helpful, please do give this video a thumbs up and feel free to leave any questions below in the comments, and I will talk to you all in my next video.